but I do want to encourage a dialogue. So if you have specific insights, I'd love for you to bring them to the table, specific stories. Let me give you the disclaimer that this is not going to give you the magic formula for finding your winning idea. This is really raising your awareness to really start thinking about what it takes. So we're just going to walk through some of the important highlights. So when you think about a winning idea, you, by default, you may already start thinking and saying, well, I thought all ideas are good. They are all good, but they're not all going to get us there. They're not all going to, find you that consumer that is so addicted to whatever you're producing that they repeatedly, continually keep buying whatever you produce. So when you think about a winning idea, the main points that I'm going to go over is that it starts with an idea that is targeted. And when you think about targeted, think if you had a gun or something and you pointed it at something. You have a target in mind, you have a focus, and in your line of sight, that is the only thing that you see. So under targeted, you're really thinking about demographics. And when I'm talking about demographics, I want you to think about not just, well, of course, if I make the game and it's fun, everybody's going to want to play it, of course. No, that's not being targeted. Being targeted, you want to think about what is the demographic? Is it going to be the young professionals? What is the age group? Is it middle class? You want to think about all these different things. And it kind of lends itself into the identifiable gamer. When you think about the identifiable gamer, you're thinking John Smith. John Smith is probably this guy who completed high school. He didn't go to college. John Smith is not necessarily that, extroverted. He's an introvert. So you want to picture this person in your mind. That is your ideal client. That's the person you're going after. I understand you're making games. You'd love to say, well, everybody's gonna love it. This is so great. This is so unique. But the reality is, not everyone can be your customer. Not everyone will like your games. You want to be very specific about what you're going after. Into that, it also lends itself to an industry cluster. And I'm sure you know the gaming industry, but you really want to position yourself, when you think about it, in San Francisco itself, the Bay Area, there's a cluster. And then there's another cluster within, the United States, international. So there's this huge pie, right? You can't think, well, I'm just going I'm just gonna go eat as much. No, you wanna go after your slice of the pie. And your slice of the pie needs to be customized. Some of us, we like our pies with, ice cream, or we wanna throw a little, you wanna think about it like that. Just like you would customize, your pie, you wanna go after a specific cluster. You wanna go after the specific region. Now, this is not to say that if you go after specific industry, like, oh, only people in the Bay Area will like my game. No, it doesn't. It means that when you're creating the customer base for your game, you're targeting people in the Bay Area. Especially if you're based in the Bay Area, you really want to start with, people close to home, right? Your marketing approach should be the people close to home, because it's that much easier. Someone mentioned earlier, they're trying to market their games and stuff. Why not do a lunch party right here? Get my friends, get people I went to school with. So target people within your community, because that's the best approach. Because one, they know you, they'll be responsive to it. And two, at the end of the day, if there are issues, or maybe they didn't really get one part of it, they're like, man, I liked everything except for this. So they also become your focus group in essence, because the closer you start at your niche area in a cluster, then you expand. Then you start from, not just San Francisco, I can think about LA, now I can think about Miami. So don't just think, well, I'm just gonna do this game and I'm going after everybody. That's a way to come up with nothing. That's a way to come up short. If you're targeted and you're specific, you're more likely to come up with a specific set of people that are going to be loyal customers for you. Any questions about that so far, or comments?
How would you narrow your target then to a localized area, like you say, you put something on the web and who's going to download it or buy it? In terms of promotion or advertising?
That's a great question. So it is going to be available to the whole world. find it. It's going to be available to the whole world, but at the same time, there's a difference between putting something out there for the world, and and the next step is what you do to market it. Yes, it may be available to the whole world, but do you have enough resources to go after the whole world as a customer base? So, yes, you make it available. The next step is, are you going to do local ads? Are you going to do your local launching parties? So you can still do customization. It'll be available to the whole world, and you pray that they receive it. But nonetheless, you can still target your home base, which is what I recommend. So the next point on that is basically you want to make sure that the software, like based on the platform you're targeting, right? Is it going to be mobile? Is it going to be web-based? Is it going to be, for most of you, it's not going to be console because for the most part, if you do an independent gaming, it's not likely that it'll become console. But you really, this theory of let's throw everything at the wall and see what catches is just not worth it, and it's not working. And maybe if you had millions of dollars to market what you're putting out there, then maybe it might work. But nonetheless, if you have limited resources, you want to go after one thing. This is a mobile game, this is what it does, and you go for it. You don't want to just try to do something and, oh yeah, it could do this too. It could, all these different things, it gets confusing and you lose consumer because they don't know what you're going after. Sorry. So the next part is that you want your idea to be creative. And of course you're gonna look at me and say, duh, of course, my idea is unique, I came up with it. It hasn't been done before. But you wanna think about creativity on a different level where you're thinking about efficiency measures. It's not a matter of creativity like, oh, this one, yeah, it's the bird, you can shoot the bird, yeah, no. You want to think about efficiency. Efficiency in terms of that it hasn't been done this way before, the software application. Earlier I was listening to this person who was talking about the setting, the storyline, all these different things. You want to make sure that it's doing something so much different that it's unique by itself. And when you think about the gaming industry and a lot of the things that, it's always the, heroic guy who's, super in shape, or the woman who has like all these, overly emphasized features, right? Think about what else you can do. I was talking to someone earlier and he's like, yeah, I want to make this guy who's like older and 60s, he's going to be my superhero, And yes, he faces an uphill climb because people don't necessarily see someone within that respect as a superhero. But I dare to say that his idea would be creative and unique in that people don't necessarily look for a typical normal superhero. The next thing you want to do is make sure you're thinking about overcoming whatever shortfalls that there may be. So you can go into chat rooms. You hear it all the time. People complain, man, I was playing this game and then this happened, man, I was doing so good. All these different things, that's your platform for improvement. So when you hear about people complaining about this happened when I was playing that game, or even when they tell you, I love this about that game, but if it could do this, I'd love it even more. These are the kind of things that you want to plug into so that you can make your game that much better. So your idea, just to give you, because I'm walking you through it. So it's targeted, it's creative, but the creative component is not necessarily because I'm the only one who came up with it. It taps into the creativity of the efficiency, but also into what else other people, what are the feedback, what are all the other things that people are giving, and you harnessing all of those things. That's what's going to give you a winning formula. And the level of complexity of also, the third point, is what you want to also add to it. So if someone will tell you, I played this game, man, it was so easy, or maybe they'll tell you, man, that game is way too hard. You need to find that middle line. Are you going for complexity? Are you going for entertainment? All these different things, that's what you harness to be creative. So the uniqueness of the idea kind of tie into the creativity, but not so much. Because when you're thinking about the uniqueness of what you do, you really want to make sure that depending on depending on the AI coding, like there'll be a certain level of complexity that you're going for. So you want to make sure that it sets itself, either one, it's on the same level as the other things that are being done, but you're adding in another component to it, or it stands alone on its own. You want to make sure that you're utilizing the creative thinking of the people. A lot of times, some people will go for, oh yeah, it's just a regular game, whatever. But for the most part, nowadays people are playing games because they want something out of it. They want to use their problem-solving skills. So you want to tap into that. You want to tap into really giving people something more. A lot of times, you may think that the user may not want more, but they do. And they don't know it until you give it to them. So when you figure out the uniqueness, the creativity, and making your ideas targeted, it kind of lends itself into a lot of opportunities for you as someone who's building a game. And those opportunities are really, really broad. They're broad in the sense of it's what you make it. I mean, you have a unique advantage where now you're not necessarily limited to create your own applications, your own game. I mean, in the good old days, you have the same old people doing the same stuff, and really, people like you didn't necessarily have the access. You couldn't go out there and say, I'm gonna do my social media, my Facebook. No, it was closed. That opportunity was not available to you, and now it is. So now that it is, you have to kind of be the innovator. You have to be bringing something more to the table because you have less money, because you have less resources. Your ideas needs to be that much more creative, that much more targeted. So in terms of opportunities, I think one of the points that I want to highlight, as I mentioned earlier, women are now playing more and more video games. You have women in the professional world, that are really going after, like you have them at a higher percentage playing video games than typical users. So that means that maybe you need to start thinking about creating that video game that doesn't necessarily objectify women as much. Maybe you want to give them something more, right? So you have so many opportunities. Also because of the social media platforms that are available. And people are looking for that different game experience. They want something more. What is it? I don't know. I can't tell you what it is. This is not supposed to give you a specific formula. This is the winning idea. This is supposed to give you some talking points. When you think about your winning idea, you try to harness all these different things that I talked about, the creativity, the targetedness, and also the uniqueness. All these three things will bring you that much closer to finding your creative ideas. If you have any questions, I will take them now. No questions?